Hello, my friend. Let me tell you a story that has been passed through generations, a story of courage, faith, and the power of God. Long ago in the lands of Egypt, there was a mighty king, Pharaoh. He ruled with absolute power, controlling the Nile, the lands, the people, and even their hearts. Pharaoh was proud, so proud that he thought himself greater than anyone, greater than any god. His wealth, his armies, his grand palaces, they made him feel untouchable, but his heart had grown hard, blind to the truth, and deaf to the warnings that came from the one true God. In this land of gold and power, the children of Israel were suffering. They worked from sunrise to sunset under the harsh hand of Pharaoh's overseers. Their lives were full of labor and sorrow, yet in their hearts, hope never vanished completely. In those times, a child was born, a boy named Musa, who would grow to become a messenger of God. From the moment of his birth, Musa's life was marked by divine care. His mother, guided by faith and hope, placed him in a basket upon the Nile. She prayed for his safety and entrusted him to the river. The Nile carried him gently to the palace of Pharaoh, where he was found and raised among wealth and learning, surrounded by luxury, unaware at first of the hardships of his own people. Musa grew into a man of wisdom, strength, and compassion. He learned the ways of the palace, yet his heart remained pure and gentle. One day, Musa witnessed an injustice, an Egyptian striking an Israelite. His heart burned with anger and compassion. He could not stay silent. Musa defended the oppressed and acted against the oppressor. Yet, danger followed quickly, and he realized he could not remain in Egypt. Fearful for his life, he fled, wandering through deserts and mountains until he found safety among the people of Midian. There, he lived humbly, tending flocks, learning patience, and reflecting deeply on life, justice, and the nature of God. One day, while watching over his flock on a quiet, serene mountain, Musa noticed a fire that did not consume the trees around it. Strange, warm, glowing, it called to him. From the fire, a voice spoke. "Musa, I am your Lord, the most merciful. Go to Pharaoh. Tell him to release my people, the children of Israel. Command him to obey, for his pride and cruelty have blinded him to the truth." Musa trembled, unsure how he could face such a mighty king. Yet God reassured him, giving him courage, signs, and a helper, his brother Harun. Together they approached the palace, where Pharaoh sat in splendor, surrounded by advisors and treasures, his face stern, proud, and unyielding. "Mighty Pharaoh," Musa said, his voice calm but firm, "I am a messenger from the Lord of the worlds. Release the children of Israel, for their God is one and his command is just." Pharaoh laughed, a sound full of arrogance and pride. "Who is this Lord?" he demanded. "I am Pharaoh, ruler of Egypt. I fear no God I cannot see." Musa replied steadily, "Your power is only temporary, Pharaoh. The one true God created the heavens and the earth, the sun and the stars, and all that exists. Obey him or face the consequences of defiance." Thus began the long and trying struggle between Pharaoh and Musa. Musa performed miracles to show the truth. His staff became a serpent. His hand shone brilliantly when revealed. Pharaoh called upon his magicians, men skilled in deception, to challenge these signs. Yet when they saw the true miracles of God, their hearts were moved. They fell in prostration, saying, "We believe in the Lord of Musa and Harun." Pharaoh's pride only deepened. He refused to release the people. He increased their labor, trying to break their spirits. Musa remained patient, guided by God. Plagues came upon Egypt. Rivers turned to blood, frogs covered the land, lice and pestilence struck the people, hail and darkness spread. But Pharaoh's heart stayed hard. Years passed. The children of Israel grew weary, but Musa reminded them, "Trust in God, be patient. Relief will come." Finally, the day arrived when Pharaoh, furious and confident, pursued the children of Israel toward the sea. They were trapped, or so Pharaoh thought. But God commanded Musa, "Strike the sea with your staff." Musa obeyed. The waters parted, creating a path with walls of water on each side. The Israelites walked safely on the seabed. Pharaoh and his armies followed, but the waters returned, drowning them completely. Musa and his people were saved. They walked through the wilderness, guided by God, learning patience, faith, and trust. This story travels through time, reminding us that arrogance cannot win against truth, and that those who trust in the most merciful will always find their way. As the children of Israel continued their journey through the vast deserts, Musa spoke to them every day. "Do not despair," he would say, "even when the path seems endless. Trust in God, for He guides the steps of those who are patient. He provides for those who rely upon Him, even when food and water are scarce, even when hope seems distant." The people listened, some with weary hearts, some with renewed courage. They saw in Musa a guide not just of words, but of action. He reminded them that freedom is not only from chains, but from fear, from despair, from the doubts that weaken the heart. And though Pharaoh's shadow had been removed from their lives, the lessons of patience, faith, and trust were now more important than ever. During the nights, when the sky was filled with countless stars, Musa would climb the hills, speaking quietly to God. "Lord," he would say, "grant me patience, grant me courage. Give me the strength to lead your people through these trials. Let their hearts remain faithful and let them never forget your mercy." And in the stillness, in the whisper of the wind, in the quiet rustle of sand, Musa felt God's presence, comforting and guiding him. One day, as the people rested beside a dry riverbed, they began to complain. "We are thirsty," they said. "We have no food. How will we survive in this endless desert?" Musa remained calm. He lifted his staff and struck the ground, and from that very spot water gushed forth, clear and fresh. The people drank, they washed, and they rejoiced. "This is God's mercy," Musa said. "Remember Him, give thanks, and trust in His provision." But their journey was not yet over. Each day brought new challenges. The desert was harsh, with blazing sun, shifting sands, and cold nights. Sometimes fear would creep into their hearts. Sometimes doubt whispered, "Will we ever reach a safe land? Will freedom ever feel permanent?" And each time Musa reminded them, faith is stronger than fear. Courage is stronger than despair. The most merciful is always near. Musa's own heart carried the weight of leadership. He knew that guiding a people through hardship was not easy, but he trusted in God's plan. He knew that the lessons they learned in the desert were as important as the freedom they had gained from Pharaoh's chains. Patience, gratitude, trust, and faith. These were the treasures that could never be taken away, even in the hardest times. The children of Israel continued to walk through the deserts, facing new trials, hunger, thirst, and fear. Musa constantly reminded them, every hardship is a lesson. Every challenge strengthens your hearts. Trust in God and you will find guidance and relief. The nights were cold, but the stars above reminded them of God's greatness. Musa would climb the hills, pray, and speak words of encouragement to the people. He taught them that true freedom was not only the absence of Pharaoh's chains, but the cultivation of patience, mercy, faith, and courage in their hearts. Water and food were provided in miraculous ways, teaching them gratitude and reliance on God. Musa reminded them, "Do not despair. Even in the most difficult moments, trust in God. He provides for those who remain patient and faithful." Through the harsh sun, cold nights, and shifting sands, the children of Israel grew in unity, strength, and faith. Musa taught them the importance of helping one another, sharing, forgiving, and maintaining hope. Every step through the desert was a lesson in life, patience, and trust. Musa reminded them daily, the desert is not just a place of hardship. It is a school of the heart. Every trial teaches patience. Every act of mercy strengthens bonds, and every blessing is a sign of God's guidance. Carry these lessons within you, and you will be free in spirit. As months passed, the people learned that life itself is a journey of faith. The desert taught them endurance, patience, gratitude, and courage. Musa guided them with wisdom, reinforcing the importance of trust in God and love for one another. Step by step, day by day, they continued, their hearts strengthened, their spirits united, and their faith unwavering. Every hardship was a lesson, every blessing a reminder of God's mercy. They learned that true strength is in faith, true courage in patience, and true freedom in the cultivation of the soul. The children of Israel pressed on through the endless sands, their hearts weary yet determined. Musa walked among them, observing their struggles, listening to their fears and soothing their doubts. He reminded them constantly, "Do not let fear dominate you. The Lord sees your pain and will guide you. Every step you take, even through hardship, brings you closer to the land promised to you." Days turned into weeks and weeks into months. The harsh desert tested their endurance. Food ran low, water became scarce, and fatigue settled deep into their bodies. Yet Musa remained resolute. He prayed fervently to God, seeking guidance, patience, and strength to lead his people. And every time he lifted his hands to the heavens, small miracles would occur. Water from barren rocks, flocks of quail appearing at dusk, and manna descending like dew upon the ground. The people marveled at these signs, their faith rekindled, their hope renewed. Musa knew that his mission was more than leading them out of Egypt. It was teaching them the principles of life: trust, obedience, patience, and faith. He told them, "The trials we face are not punishments but lessons. The desert will teach you resilience, the hardships will forge your character, and the reliance on God will strengthen your hearts. Remember, we are never alone as long as we trust in the one who provides all things." At night, the skies were a canvas of stars, and Musa would climb the hills to pray. He spoke to God with a voice of humility and devotion. "Lord, grant me the wisdom to guide your people. Protect their hearts from despair. Strengthen their faith and help them to remain steadfast in your path." And as he prayed, a calm presence would descend, a reassurance that their journey, though arduous, was part of a divine plan. Among the people, not everyone understood immediately. Some murmured, "Will we ever reach safety? Will our suffering ever end?" Musa would approach them, placing his hands upon their shoulders and say, "Patience, courage, and faith are our weapons. Despair is our enemy. Trust in God, for he knows the end of our journey before we even see it." And slowly their hearts changed. Doubt gave way to hope, despair gave way to courage, and weakness transformed into resilience. One day, as they rested in the shade of scattered rocks, a group of children ran to Musa, thirsty and exhausted. He lifted his staff, and water sprang forth from the earth, filling their hands, their mouths, and their hearts with gratitude. He said, "Remember this, children. God provides for those who trust him. Keep this lesson in your hearts, and it will guide you through every hardship you face." As they continued, news of their journey spread. Other tribes and travelers saw the Israelites moving with determination, guided by Musa, witnessing miracles and acts of faith. Many joined them, seeking protection, guidance, and hope. Musa welcomed them all, teaching them the ways of patience, justice, and reliance upon God. Months turned into years. The children of Israel learned to live not only in the desert but within themselves, discovering the strength of unity, the power of faith, and the peace that comes from trusting in God's plan. Musa reminded them often, "Freedom is more than leaving chains behind. True freedom is in the heart. Free your hearts from fear, envy, hatred, and despair. Only then can you truly be free." Even the elders who had been hardened by years of slavery began to see the wisdom in his words. They spoke to the young ones, saying, "Listen to Musa, for he guides us with wisdom, patience, and truth." The community grew closer, stronger, and more resilient with every passing day. Challenges continued. Sandstorms would rise, the sun would scorch, and the nights would be bitterly cold. Sometimes, wild animals would threaten their flocks and food would run dangerously low. Yet Musa never wavered. He encouraged his people to care for one another, share what little they had, and pray without ceasing. The lessons of the desert became their education, the hardships their teachers, and faith their shield. In quiet moments, Musa would walk alone through the dunes, reflecting on the journey. He knew that the promise of the land awaited them, but the greater task was shaping a people whose hearts were guided by righteousness, whose spirits were strengthened by patience, and whose lives were devoted to God. Each day brought new lessons, new tests, and new opportunities to grow. When the children of Israel reached a valley surrounded by mountains, Musa reminded them, "This land is a blessing, but remember, it is your faith and obedience that make it a home. Cherish God's guidance, honor one another, and uphold the lessons you have learned in the desert. Among the mountains, Musa received revelation and guidance from God. Laws were taught, principles established, and the people learned about justice, mercy, and morality. Musa taught them not only to follow God's commands but to internalize them, so that their hearts, minds, and actions aligned with divine wisdom. Through every hardship, every miracle, every lesson, Musa's leadership remained steadfast. He never sought glory for himself, only to serve God and his people. His humility, patience, and courage became a beacon of hope. The people learned that true leadership is not domination, but guidance, not fear, but compassion, not pride, but humility. Time passed and the children of Israel began to flourish. They learned to cultivate the land, to live in harmony, to build communities based on justice and faith. Musa reminded them constantly, the journey is not yet over. Though Pharaoh's chains are gone, the chains of the heart, anger, fear, greed, must also be broken. Let the lessons of the desert guide you, and let faith be your foundation. Even as the older generation aged, Musa taught the young, ensuring that knowledge, faith, and virtue would continue through generations. He reminded them that the world was full of challenges, but with patience, courage, and trust in God, they could overcome anything. The children of Israel had learned that the greatest miracle was not only the parting of the sea or the flowing of water from rocks, but the transformation of hearts, minds, and spirits through faith and perseverance. The children of Israel continued their journey through the vast desert, their feet trudging through scorching sand and their eyes seeking the horizon for signs of promise. Musa walked among them, watching, guiding, and teaching. Every step, every hardship became a lesson. He reminded them, do not despair. The trials we face are part of God's plan. Each challenge strengthens your hearts and prepares you for the blessings to come. The sun blazed relentlessly during the day, scorching their skin and drying their throats. Water became a precious treasure and food was often scarce. Yet every time despair threatened to overtake them, Musa lifted his staff and prayed, calling upon God for guidance and sustenance. Miracles appeared. Hidden springs gushed with water, manna descended from the sky, and flocks of quail appeared to feed the hungry. The people marveled at these signs, their faith renewed, and their hope rekindled. As they traveled, Musa emphasized the importance of community, unity, and mutual care. Look around you, he said. We are not alone. Each of us carries a part of God's mercy within us. Help one another, share what you have, forgive mistakes, and be patient. This is the true strength of our people. Slowly, these lessons took root. Families, young and old, began to care for each other, to share burdens, and to protect the vulnerable. At night, the sky stretched endlessly above them, filled with countless stars. Musa would climb a hill to pray in solitude, speaking quietly to God. Lord, grant me wisdom. Guide my people with patience and justice. Protect their hearts from despair, strengthen their spirits, and let their faith remain steadfast. And in those moments of silent devotion, Musa felt a calm presence, a reassurance that God's guidance was ever near. The people often questioned the length and hardship of their journey. Musa, when will we reach safety? How long must we endure the desert? He would answer with patience. Every step is part of God's plan. Our endurance is tested not to break us, but to teach us patience, courage, and trust. We walk toward freedom not only in body, but in spirit. Years passed, and the children of Israel began to transform. They learned to live in the desert, finding resourcefulness and resilience within themselves. They discovered the importance of faith in action, feeding the hungry, comforting the fearful, supporting the weak, and teaching the young. Musa's guidance ensured that these lessons became ingrained in their hearts, shaping a community founded upon patience, mercy, and devotion. The desert brought not only hardship but also reflection. Musa often spoke of God's wisdom in every occurrence. Notice the sunrise, the wind across the dunes, the stars at night, he said. These are signs of God's care. Every challenge we face is a lesson, every blessing a reminder of His mercy. Open your hearts and you will see guidance in all things. Some nights when the wind howled across the sands, Children would cry from cold and fear. Musa would gather them close, comforting their hearts. "Do not fear," he would say. "God watches over us." Courage comes not from the absence of fear, but from faith in his presence. Stay united, and no trial will overwhelm us. As the people journeyed, they faced tests of character. Conflicts arose among travelers, envy and anger surfaced, and fear sometimes turned to despair. Musa mediated disputes with fairness, encouraged forgiveness, and reminded them constantly of God's law. "Justice and mercy must guide your actions," he said. "Even in hardship, be kind, patient, and compassionate. This is what makes a people strong, not wealth or armies." Occasionally, the travelers encountered other tribes, some hostile, others seeking help. Musa's guidance extended beyond his immediate people. He negotiated peace, shared resources, and taught all who would listen about patience, obedience, and faith. Through these interactions, the children of Israel learned diplomacy, compassion, and the power of righteous leadership. Musa himself bore the heavy weight of leadership. Every complaint, every fear, every doubt of his people rested upon his shoulders. Yet he never wavered. Each night he prayed not only for guidance but for protection over every heart and mind entrusted to him. "Lord," he whispered, "strengthen the weak, grant courage to the fearful, and keep our faith unwavering. Let us walk together in your light." Time stretched onward, and the people began to witness the fruits of their endurance. Wells were discovered, pastures appeared for their flocks, and communities began to form. They learned to cultivate the land, ration resources, and live in harmony. Yet Musa reminded them, "The desert has taught us resilience, patience, and unity. Do not forget these lessons as the land becomes fertile. Faith and mercy must guide every action." Despite progress, challenges remained. Sandstorms, scorching sun, and cold nights continued to test their resolve. Sometimes food ran low, sometimes fear threatened to divide them. Musa encouraged continuous prayer and mutual aid, emphasizing reliance upon God and each other. Every trial became a lesson. Every miracle reinforced faith. The young generation who had grown up in the desert absorbed the teachings deeply. They learned courage, patience, and the value of community. Musa often spoke directly to them. "Your strength is not only in your bodies but in your hearts. Be just, show mercy, act with wisdom, and trust in God. This is what will guide you through life, beyond this desert." With each passing year, the children of Israel grew stronger, wiser, and more unified. They learned to act not for self-interest but for the well-being of the group. Justice, kindness, patience, and faith became the cornerstones of their society. Musa's leadership ensured that these principles became a permanent part of their culture, a legacy that would endure beyond his lifetime. The desert itself became a teacher. Its harsh days reminded them of the value of shade and water, its cold nights emphasized the importance of community, and its endless horizons illustrated God's greatness. Musa constantly pointed out these lessons. See how God works in everything. Every difficulty carries wisdom, every blessing carries a message. Trust, patience, and unity are gifts that will guide you forever. Even as Pharaoh's memory faded from their minds, the lessons from their suffering remained vivid. They remembered the oppression, the miracles, and the guidance that had sustained them. Musa reminded them daily, "Do not forget what we endured. Let patience, mercy, and faith guide your lives. Every action must reflect the lessons of the past, for they shape your hearts and your future." The journey stretched on, and the children of Israel continued walking, step by step, day by day. Their spirits strengthened with each passing trial. Hunger, thirst, exhaustion, and fear tested them, yet each hardship was met with courage and reliance upon God. Musa remained a pillar of strength, never allowing despair to touch his heart, teaching through example the values that would sustain them for generations. They learned that miracles were not only extraordinary events like the parting of the sea or water from rocks, but the transformation of hearts, learning patience, showing mercy, and trusting in God's plan. Musa emphasized, "The greatest miracle is faith, the guidance of God, and the unity of your hearts. Remember this and you will endure anything. The people of Israel began to establish routines, share resources, and maintain the teachings of their journey. Every evening, as the sun set behind the dunes, they gathered around Musa to hear lessons and prayers. He spoke of God's mercy, the importance of justice, and the value of patience and trust. These teachings, he said, are the true inheritance we carry, more precious than gold, more enduring than land. Guard them in your hearts and they will guide your every step. Musa encouraged exploration of the desert's resources, teaching navigation, observation, and respect for God's creations. Every plant, every animal, every star was a sign of divine wisdom. The people learned to live in harmony with nature, understanding that every blessing came from God, and every trial was a lesson in preparation, humility, and faith. Years passed, and the children of Israel matured into a people ready for the next phase of life. They were resilient, knowledgeable, faithful, and compassionate. Musa continued to guide them, but also prepared them to take responsibility for one another, instilling values of leadership, justice, and mercy. He reminded them, "The journey continues in your hearts. Every act of kindness, every moment of patience, every prayer you offer strengthens you. Keep faith, and God will never abandon you." Even as the older generation grew tired, they found renewed strength in the younger ones. Knowledge, faith, and the teachings of the desert were passed down. Every trial, every hardship, every miracle was remembered, shared, and honored. Musa reminded them, "Teach your children what you have learned. Guard these lessons, for they are the legacy of our journey, the foundation of our faith, and the path to God's guidance." The desert, once seen as a place of suffering, became a school, a teacher, and a sanctuary. Each dawn brought a new lesson, each sunset a moment of reflection, and each star a reminder of God's presence. The people understood that life itself was a journey of faith, perseverance, and compassion. And so, step by step, day by day, the children of Israel walked onward, guided by Musa, inspired by the miracles they had witnessed, strengthened by their unity, and anchored in their unwavering trust in God. Their journey was more than physical escape. It was a spiritual awakening, a shaping of hearts, and a cultivation of a people devoted to mercy, justice, patience, and faith. That's all for today. We will continue next time. For now, you can close your eyes, take a deep breath, and drift into a peaceful sleep. Thank you for watching.